Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's panel. Please, as you join in, we are letting more people join, but as you join in, please put in the chat, where are you logging in from? It would be great to see where are you right now. I was actually gonna say Colombia, but I'm not there anymore. I am in London. James from Prague, beautiful city, Israel, London, Bangkok, Thailand, Milan, Nigeria, Japan, Lagos, Australia. This is absolutely wonderful. It's been a while since I actually hosted panel at this time zone. It's usually 4 a.m. where I'm currently where I'm usually based. And so welcome everybody. Today we have really, really special panelists. I would like to really briefly introduce you also to Manami, my colleague, who is going to be supporting and co-hosting this event. So thank you, Manami, for being here. And let's start. If you put on your camera, that will be great as well, so we get to see who is on the other side. Thanks, James, for turning on your camera. So my name is Joanna Molina. I am the co-founder of the Intern Group. And at the Intern Group, we help you realize your potential through international internship programs. We offer remote, hybrid, and in-person opportunities for talent from all over the world. Manami, my co-host, is going to put a link so that you can take a look at our programs. I also want to share with everybody here that we have an open learning platform. So this is an entire library of courses where you can find like real experiences from professionals to help you with your professional development. We're going to share with you as well the link. Take a look at that. And for program participants that are here, you already have access to our full learning platform. So don't forget to log in and check it out. As you can tell, we are really committed to enhancing your professional development. So after this session, you will be able to receive a certificate to show the takeaway skills from this session. So make sure to stay until the end, because we're going to send a link where you can give us your details and we'll share the certificate. Excellent. So I'm super excited to introduce our amazing speakers today. They will be sharing their unique experiences. And so thank you all for joining us today. And instead of me introducing you, let's just start with each one of you, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background. Tell us where you are from and where you are at right now. Welcome, everybody. Maybe we can start with you, Declan.
Sure thing. Thank you very much for the invite to talk today. I'm joining you today from Poland, even though originally I am from Ireland, and I would say my workplace is in Tokyo, Japan. In fact, I work with another speaker from today's panel. I work with Makoto indirectly, and I work today for a UK company that offer SIM services, eSIM services to foreign residents and tourists traveling to Japan. So I work for a company called Mobile. And quite often we have interns from the intern group joining us and helping us out in promoting to fellow interns and fellow foreign residents living in Japan. And they've been a great help to us. So I'm delighted to be able to share whatever nuggets of knowledge I can today with you all.
Fantastic. Makoto, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course, I'm Makoto from Japan, Tokyo, and I'm working with Declan indirectly, and I'm working for charity and fundraising for Malawi, small East African country, and fundraising through education, selling coffee, marketing, and also doing some researches about what Malawi is. And I'm very happy to be here to talk about my failure, and it could be interesting experience for you. So maybe I also am very happy to be here to talk about myself and also about Declan. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And Luca?
Thank you, Joanne. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Luca, I'm managing partner of Mahana Companies Group. I'm originally from Italy. My law firm is a global network with headquarters in Bangkok, Thailand, where I am today. And I would say that also here in the office in Bangkok, we have professionals from all over the world, Asia Pacific, Europe, North America. We have a few from Japan as well. So we also welcome interns from all over the world. We believe that diversity is one of our strong suits. So look forward to the conversation today. Please feel free to ask any questions you may have. Thanks.
Wonderful, Luca. Well, let's stay with you first, but we would like this to be super interactive. So I have a few questions, but I would like to hear also from everybody who is connected. So please put in your questions or raise your hand. So the first one will be, you are Italian living in Thailand. That sounds so nice. What were some of the biggest cultural differences that you encountered when you started that international career? How did you adapt to a new culture?
Okay, I would start by saying that I happened to be born in Italy, but I studied in Switzerland, in the US, and so a bit of a atypical Italian. So I would say that with my background, I studied, I was in law studies. Then I also took an MBA when I was working in banking back in Italy over 20 years ago. So when I came to Thailand, I was already, I would say, acquainted with, I would say, Southeast Asia, because I worked in Singapore for some time. So when I moved to Thailand, I would say that the first impact was a bit shocking. All my past experiences besides Singapore, which is what some people say Asia for beginners, were mostly in Western countries. So I think the cultural aspect was very important at the beginning. This is an international law firm. Again, we have people from all over the world, but most of the people that work at MPG in Thailand are Thai nationals. So whether lawyers, auditors, accountants, they all studied mostly and predominantly in Thailand. They're Thai nationals. They have a very different culture to what I was used to when I first moved here about 16 years ago. So I would say that my first impact was somewhat of a cultural shock, mainly related to communication patterns. So I think we Westerners are a bit more direct while communicating, while people in general in Asia and specifically in Thailand are a bit more, I would say there is more of an aspect of trying to be nuanced and trying to not to be too direct when engaging in conversation, a professional conversation. So even feedback, I was not prepared to I would say, the way that feedback should have been given in certain instances. So I found myself in a situation in which the communication that was that we were having with some people in my firm was not perceived the same way by myself and the other people. So for example, when assessing the information that was delivered at a presentation, whether with clients or in a conference, my feedback tended to be a bit too direct. And in some cases that created conflict within the organization because the perception from the staff was that the feedback was negative, whereas in my opinion was positive. I was trying to focus on aspects that could have been improved upon. This happens everywhere. So I would say that throughout the years, I've been, of course, become more attuned to the very subtle nuances of communicating in Thailand. There are many issues that we see when, for example, foreign companies open a branch or engage in business with Thai companies. there are many large Thai conglomerates that now doing outbound investment. So they are looking at potential investment in Europe, for example, in Italy or in other countries in Europe or North America. And I would say that many of these instances we've been witnessing issues pertaining to the cultural aspect of doing business. So I think that for you interns, when you're looking at honing your skills in another jurisdiction, another country, and trying to seek career opportunities in other countries, I think you should be as open-minded as possible and try to understand that in some countries, what seems to be something that you would take for granted, it might not be as clear or as taken for granted by other people. So I would say that this aspect of communication is something that I had to learn at a very early stage, and it was a really, a rough learning curve for myself at the beginning. So I would say that nowadays, but they probably there are many more opportunities for interns to experience the work environment in a different country where the culture is completely different. Also, thanks to organizations like the Intern Group that makes this possible. Back in the days, 16 years ago, I wasn't prepared. There was no such a company like the Intern Group that would prepare me to what I was going to experience firsthand. And I would say that the impact was pretty hard. So I would say that for everyone that is willing and probably on the verge of starting on, embarking on a internship in a country that is culturally far away from what you're used to, I would say, please keep an open mind and try to don't take communication patterns for granted. Try to really understand what what people are, how communication is normally done in the country where you are going to be relocated. There might be some coaches. For example, I knew there was a US cultural intelligence consultant here in Thailand for 25 years that recently moved to Vietnam. He was actually preparing also executives from other countries when moving to Thailand. So I would say the differences also between amongst countries in ASEAN are very, very big. Between countries such as Indonesia and Thailand, or even Malaysia, Vietnam. So there might be very big cultural differences. So again, keep an open mind and try to learn not only the technical skills and the soft skills that are required in your industry, but also try and understand how communication is properly done in a different country.
Thank you for sharing, Luca. I agree. It also happened to me. I'm Colombian. So when I started working with people from the UK and other parts of the world, communication was a really big thing to overcome, let's say, especially if it's not your native language. And so that's an extra layer of like difficulty, because English, for example, is not my native language. So the way I was communicating was seen as too direct as well when I was trying to just, I don't know, communicate in the best possible way that I could. So thank you for sharing, and feedback is definitely a very important thing. I would like to maybe pin for us to expand on later. Declan, in your case, any other challenge that you have faced and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, well, I mean, Luca raised a very interesting point. He said that, back in the day, there was no such thing as the intern group to provide the advice and the help in advance of making a big move internationally. But of course, today we have the internet as well. I remember 3 decades ago arriving from Ireland into Japan, and my issues were more than cultural and linguistic. I couldn't sleep. I went from a relatively cold environment to a really sticky, hot tropical climate, and I wasn't able to use an air conditioner properly. I probably still am not that technically adept. I had an air conditioning on full blast and I would get too cold. I turn it off, I'm in a pool of sweat. there's now a function on the air conditioning remote controls called dorai in Japanese. I had no idea what dorai was, but it's a very good option if you want to sleep all night. The other thing I just want to tell people when they are making a move is to take the pressure off yourself a little bit, because everybody wants to change the world. I mean, you know, we do too. I mean, Makoto's in a fundraising organization. He wants to actually feed the world, not just change it. Sorry, I'm joined by my Irish, half Polish son. He turned 9 yesterday, and he doesn't understand the concept of online meetings.
What's his name?
Alex. Alex goes to school in Tokyo. He's also a Polish speaker with a small Irish accent. But yeah, do you mind giving me, maybe move on to the next speaker, and I'll sort this domestic issue out.
Kids are always welcome. Mine is
I'm
not
sure they
that
are.
way,
Absolutely. It was
but
unintended.
nice to have you here, Alex. Makoto, would you like to share with us some of your challenges also living abroad, starting an international career?
Actually, my first career was mobile, the telecom company in UK. So I had to change myself completely, literally. So I was a very quiet person, and I didn't know about what happened all over the world. And I am just studying about literature and theology, and my world is very small. But when I started my careers as a marketing and sales, actually sales, it was very amazing experience to work with Declan and visit a lot of clients, potential clients. And in Japan, we have to meet a lot of people directly. And also for charity, it was very big challenge for us. For example, one of the experiences to send coffee, charity coffee, to particular persons. Let me give you one story. One person would like to send our coffee with our label on it to the people as a gift, but the people who get the gift didn't know about our coffee because they didn't order. So they made a phone call to the police, and he said he has got something from religious organization. So they're surprised to see that. As you know, in Japan, there's no people who strongly have the faith for God, one God. So they said they saw our logo and thought it was a kind of cult group. So it was very challenging for us. It's very amazing, but it's a culture. It's Japanese culture. So one of the things I would like to share is, it is very interesting to know about Japanese culture, but on the same way, it is very unique but challenging. So if you would like to come to Japan, it is a great experience, but maybe you should prepare a little bit. Thank you.
100%. Thank you for sharing. Declan, would you like also to carry on sharing your experience as an Irishman living then in Japan?
Yes, but I think I was raising a point that when people do come as interns to our company, and they come in the summertime usually, I make a really strong point in saying, enjoy yourselves when you're here, because if you arrive at work with a smile, it makes a heck of a difference to everybody around you. Sometimes people go and they think, right, I'm nervous, it's first day nerves, I want to make a difference, I don't know if I'll fit in. They come with this set of kind of concerns. I try to blast them all away and say, look, even in your first week, take a day off, get to know the city. But definitely be kind to yourself, because moving, there's a lot of things that people don't expect that simply happen. It's called life. And on a more prosaic level, you know, when interns come to Japan, and it's not just Japan, there are some things that I always recommend they do or maybe know about. And one of the simple things that always trips me up is changing your phone's region setting. It sounds so daft. I have an iPhone. And by the way, if you're ever going to Japan, don't take an Android, definitely an iPhone. But it's a very simple thing. Change your region setting to Japan and you have a world of apps that weren't available to you prior. And it does apply in other countries as well. And the other thing that I discovered for myself, because I do tend to move from country to country, is when I'm in somewhere like Ireland, I know where I'm going. when I'm in Poland, I'm a bit lost. To be honest, I'm completely lost. I don't speak much Polish. I understand a little bit, but I sound odd. So I'm the village idiot here, really, which is fine. But I tend to use different apps. So for example, I use Google Maps in both Japan, because I'm always in a hurry in Japan to be on time. And that's something I'll return to. And I use a function called Live View. A live view is simply an idiot's way to use Google Maps. It shows you an arrow in which direction you should walk. But in Japan, being on time is sacrosanct. You have to be on time for meetings. And people who are taking trains for the first time using subways, especially interns, they tend to get a little bit lost or flustered or confused. It's one of your best friends. So having a good data plan, having a simple knowledge of how to use the live view function on Google Maps can save you a world of hassle. So that's just a simple prosaic tip. I don't know if that actually helps.
Everything helps. Everything helps for sure. Thank you for sharing. Let's move on. I think, Makoto, you kind of started a little bit on some of the mistakes, but can you share some mistakes that you made when you first started off on your professional journey? And also, what lessons did you learn from it?
As I told you, my first career is in Mobile, the UK company. So I thought it was very beneficial to open myself and talk about, be confident as always, and talk about our product. I thought it was always good things. However, for some Japanese client, we have to be more calm down and excuse me, I would like to do some proposal. And I think it is not sometimes good, sometimes bad, but maybe you should spend a good time with me. So please take our time. And it's a very long introduction and small time for proposal and conclusion to talk with them and get some beers and make a good connection between the client. So it is very important for Japanese as a Japanese manner. So to what I would like to tell you is I sometimes made a mistake. I cannot read atmosphere. We say 空気を読む. I think Declan know about it, but
read the room in English. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult to translate, but yeah, to read what happened. So to see the face, each other's, and in Japan we don't say things directly. So we have to see, observe a lot of things. So if you are very direct persons, maybe you should be a bit careful about what kind of condition it is. So I sometimes cannot read the atmosphere, read the, sorry, Declan, what is the particular word?
The ability to read the room. Just to give context to what Makoto is saying, Makoto works for a traditional charity, but that doesn't exist in Japan, really. So an orthodox charity asks for money to help the mission or the cause. But in the case of Japan, you don't directly ask. Asking for money is considered a cultural no-no. So you've got to go around the houses, an awful roundabout, build a relationship, and then eventually maybe, it's implicitly understood that you work for a charity and that's what you're asking, but you can never ask. Makoto works with schools where he's told to go to the school to present on the charity, but never to ask the kids to be anyway involved in donating. So it's quite a challenge. It's just unique. It's not that the Japanese are any less unkind. They give in their own way, but it's a different way.
If I may chime in right now.
Absolutely, Luca, please.
I have my 2 cents. So we, as I mentioned, we have quite a diverse clientele in Thailand. We have a Japan desk here in Bangkok. We have a Japanese lawyer that, just like Makoto, deals with clients, and yeah, he doesn't ask for money, although we do send invoices, of course, for our services. But there's a subtlety in that, in advising clients and in the communication. And of course, there is the expectancy that ultimately will be paid for the services rendered. In different cultures, different clients, or different, coming from different cultural backgrounds, are dealt with by people that are they can read the room, as Declan says, they are able to understand how to deal with that specific client, because maybe they share the same culture, or at least they can communicate and they can they know how to handle their relationship, to build rapport. And I would say that it's the same, pretty much the same in most. I would say it's a global standard that of building rapport with your clients. But in Asia Pacific, in Thailand, in Japan, in other Asian countries, that is the most important thing. So they would choose you for your probably for how you present yourself, for your personality, for your personal qualities, rather than, and then of course the professional qualities, but then the personal aspect comes first. And that goes for, you know, every client. So every time you engage someone, you have to be able to understand what the expectations are. You have to meet, if not exceed, the expectations, and then communication is very, very important. So I would say that, and this is something that we try to teach all of our interns. Communication is very, very important. It's not only important what you do, what you deliver, what is the output of your work, but also the way in which you deliver it. If it's clear enough, if its communication is transparent, if you don't leave anything unsaid or unspoken, so that, you know, it may cause, you know, may create situation in which there might be misunderstandings and miscommunication. You want to be clear, but also you must be attuned with, so you must read the room. You must be able to read the room.
Which, Luca, there's a question from Louise, I think it's Louise, that you just answered in many ways, because she's asking about an upcoming Tokyo internship and how to best impress an interviewer. And it isn't about the results. You know, people can sometimes get fixated on what is on their CV and what they can do for the company. But quite often the company wants to know if that person is going to work well within their organization and not sort of stick out or cause trouble. So it's less about the result and more about the methods and the approach to work. So quite often, I mean, it's the same with us. You know, we when we take an intern, of course we want them to take over a task and do it very, very well. But that's not what we think when we get to the interview stage. We think, okay, is this person going to be okay in the office working, you know, 9 to 5 with our little bunch of people? And will they be able to go for a beer after work on occasion and you know, not be so fixated on, I need to get the job done? Because at the end of the day, we're all people and they want to see the person. We want to see the person when we interview them. So I think that's a very important point you raised. There's a question about Malawi as well, Makoto. I don't know if you wish to take that.
Yeah, in Malawi,
I'll give you a second. Makoto, I'll give you a second to read the question because I want to do a bit of publicity on Makoto. He's a minor celebrity, and I say that in the most positive way, even though it sounds like I'm making fun of him. There's a YouTube video called Day in the Life Makoto, which you've got to see. I go around Tokyo with Makoto and I see people whispering. They've seen the video, they know him. So you're now going to become part of that elite group. Day in the Life Makoto on YouTube. Your life will never be the same.
Typical Japanese story, man. Typical. Yeah.
So happy to be part of one of your days of your life, Makoto. So someone is asking about, curious about the charity program in Malawi.
Yes.
And how did you
for the
choose?
question?
Yes. Okay, perfect. You want to answer
Yes.
that?
Okay, so I would like to share about our project with Malawi. So we are feeding around 18,000 kids in Malawi in a day with the partners in Malawi. We have 7 local staff providing school meal as a kind of franchise model for North part and South part. And to help the community, to help Malawian people to deliver the school meal, we use the Malawian coffee. We have partnership with Ataka Trading Company, who imported Malawian coffee for the first time in Japan. They are very kind enough to donate some part of Malawian coffee, and also we get some coffee to pay some money for the company. But we use the coffee and for 2 kind of way mainly. One is we have an online website called Warm Hearts Coffee Club. We sell coffee. We have a subscription model to remind about Malawi each morning. And the second is to use the coffee for the educational program. So also today I visited one school, and they are very active to learn about social enterprise. So we have partnership with Mobile, and as a business, we sell not only simcorn but also Malayan coffee to save not only local children but also local farmers as a fair trade label. And Japanese children are very happy to know about what kind of things they can do from Japan. So we are right now making a bridge between Japan and Malawi. And also, you guys, if you are interested in these kind of models, you can be a kind of ambassadors to make a bridge between your country and Malawi.
Thank you for that. And thank you everyone for the questions. We do have people participating also on Slido. So I want to make sure that we also get some of those questions answered. So one is, if you're unsure about your culture's communication method, what would be the safest communication method to go with so that you don't come off as rude? Who would like to take this one?
About the sorry. So can I answer the question or
Yes,
in
please.
chat or your question? Sorry. Communication. Yeah, communication. I have to get the chat right now. Sorry. The safest communication method. Yeah, it's a very difficult question. I'm sorry, but the safest one is yeah, you could be in the first stage. You don't have to say everything. So just tell about your job role. For example, if you are working as a sales manager or sales in a sales section, you just say, I am here to make some proposal for selling this product. So this is for some reasons I am present to sell this. But gradually, if you get more close each other, the counterpart could be ask you some questions about more about the product and also the identity of a company. So yeah, I think it's not good answer, but you could be more strategic, as Luca said about the communications. So Japan is a good country, I think, for you to learn about communication because it's very difficult.
What do you think?
Can I just
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
can I just jump in? Can I just jump in about Japan? Because of course I arrived in Japan with no Japanese first, and now speak Japanese, which is a big bonus, obviously. But when you arrive in Japan, and it's still the same, it hasn't really moved on in this respect. People are still impressed if you have a word or two. You know, if you go to an English-speaking country, people expect you to be semi-fluent at the very least. But in Japan, a foreigner is still a foreigner, and the fact that you speak Japanese is still somehow, you know, it's kind of, you're admired for stringing a few sentences together. And it doesn't matter whether you say good morning in Japanese, ohayo gozaimasu, or you have a fluent conversation about an academic topic, you'll still get the same reply. Sugoi, you're amazing. So I wouldn't be worried going to Japan with very little Japanese, as long as you have shown some efforts to learn the basic phrases. The people will almost treat you the same as being fluent. They won't expect you to speak fluently. And when you do, you'll find some of the people who thought you were sugoi, amazing, don't think you're amazing anymore because you're just one of the many who speak Japanese. So you lose your shine. So enjoy the heroic status of having a few sentences and learning the language, because everybody understands the struggle. People in Japan are learning foreign languages too. So it's not as if you're in a bubble. Sorry, Luca. Go ahead. Sorry.
Nikolai, no, I agree. So speaking a few words of the language of the country in which you live, your host country, is always good. I think Japanese, I speak a little Japanese. So Japanese is a bit more monotone, right? Thai is a bit like Chinese, so there are many tones. So for example, I have a good visual memory, so it took me a few days to learn how to read and write Thai. But the pronunciation and how to get the tones right, this is very complicated. So you may mistakenly say something that you don't want to say and embarrass yourself. Having said that, I once spoke with someone that was a very successful manager from the US. He was in Thailand, he was just arrived, and we're talking about the cultural nuances in communication. He said, well, as long as you're polite, everything should be fine. Then I thought, what you consider to be polite, it may not be polite in Thailand or in any other country. For example, when you speak with someone where I come from, you normally look each other in the eyes to show, that you are paying attention. In Thailand, you don't do that. So when I first arrived here, my staff would look on the floor. They would not look directly into my eyes. And I thought, well, maybe they don't like me. Maybe they're not willing to engage in a conversation. They're not telling me something. They're omitting some information. But then I learned that that is respect. So if you are a subordinate, look into your employer's eyes directly, because that's considered to be impolite. So again, there are many nuances that I think what I would advise is learn, trial and error, try to see what is considered to be a good communication standard. So that comes with time and experience.
Thank you for that. Can you see my screen right now? I'm just sharing something. This is actually something that we have in our learning material as well, but there are tools out there to help us get more information about other people's cultures. So I just put in this one, the cultures we have in the panel: Colombia, Ireland, Japan, Thailand, and look at all the differences. So you can also kind of prepare yourself a bit around this, in the sense of, for example, power distance. You can see how high it is in countries like Colombia or Thailand versus Ireland being quite low. So you can get a sense as well on the cultural differences. Long-term orientation, motivation towards achievement is almost 100% in Japan. If you look at Ireland, is low. If you look at long-term orientation, this one is crazy. So for Colombians, it's only 6. Japan is the absolute opposite. And so Colombian short-term thinking, Japan long-term thinking. I think this is also quite interesting. You can get different resources that will allow you to see this, but I'm with you as well, Luca, like at the end, and with you, Makoto, try to be genuine as well, because at the end of the day, we are connecting as people. And so you can tell if the intention of the other person is good or bad, right? Like they will tell you are not from the same country, you are not from, and so try to, let's not freak out about not knowing everything about the other culture, because there's no need, as long as you are trying, also coming from a good place is important, not just when you are presenting, but I think this is also going to give us the empathy whenever we are interacting with people from other cultures, that we are all going through kind of the same differences. There's another really interesting question from our audience, and it's around what are some essential skills that will be important in the international job market? Would you like to start, Luca, and then Makoto?
Sure. Skills that are important in international job markets. Okay. I would say what we just described as being mindful of other people's culture, and of course, being soft skills are important. So in every industry, we are in professional services. So we have a lot of professionals here that have a wealth of experience. We have professionals that are former DLA Piper lawyers, or maybe Deloitte consultants, or PwC auditors. So people with a very, very, I would say, with a background of experience that can be used more or less everywhere. So they can use this knowledge that they acquire in other jurisdictions, in other companies, also in Thailand. Of course, you need to be also proficient in the local law, and there might be some adjustments if you're an accountant and you need to revise as you provide an opinion on international accounting standard and revise it through the lens of a Thai accounting standards. Or if you're a lawyer, so you're working on a cross-border dispute resolution matter, you need to be proficient in more than one country's legal system. But beyond that, soft skills. So if you have all the knowledge in the world, but you're not able to engage and understand what the needs of your clients are, then all your knowledge is really useless. So you must be able to manage expectations, understand complex information, and be able to communicate effectively. So what I was saying earlier about communication, about being able to also read a room or understand the nuances in communication, this applies also in every profession, every job that you may have in the future. So being able to engage, having a being able to also convey the message in a way that is clear. Sometimes, it's difficult to analyze a lot of information and being able to convey it in a message which can be easily digested by someone who's not let's say, a legal professional. So soft skills is something that also Thailand is investing in a lot. And I think also, as I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we have I think one of our strong suits and one of our privileges is having a very diverse, culturally diverse work environment, because also this helps with communication.
Thank you, Luca. Makoto, anything else you will add?
Yeah. From my understanding, that being in the international market in one way is to make a unique introduction about yourself before just marketing experience. So if you like to sell some, for me, it's a coffee. So why you sell Malayan coffee in Japan for the older people, for example. So it's a very interesting combinations. So maybe you can make a lot of interesting combinations as a kind of introduction before you introduce the main topic. So many people from my experience in Japan, they would like to know about not only the product but also the people who sell it. So I think you can make a lot of experiences through the internship group. So you can make it as a kind of your talent to make a great experience and also make it for your skills to tell for other people. So it could be a good introduction before you sell something or make something more profitable.
100%, Makoto. In fact, here last week we had a group of universities visiting London. That's why I'm here. And they came from Australia, Hong Kong, Scotland, Canada, US, Europe, Italy, other parts.
Oh.
And so we were a very diverse group. It was 20 people, but 8 nationalities. And thinking about this, we discussed, so one thing is, I would love to encourage people that are here to kind of bring more like humanizing communication. As you just mentioned, Makoto, kind of going back to the why we are here. Why do you care about Malawi? Why do I care about international education or internationalization? And when you start from that point, the level of communication and connections is different. It's less transactional and is more going from the purpose, basically. And we also discuss a lot about the skills. So I'm just putting here in the chat. Soft skills or power skills, as you mentioned, Luca, are really, really important. Are those that artificial intelligence cannot really replace. And so things like adaptability, learning fast, because we are currently like constantly having to adapt and change. Growth mindset, empathy, emotional intelligence, as you said, Luca, reading the room, but also reading ourselves and communication. So this one is actually really important. Thank you both for sharing. Let me check if we have some more questions. What are some cultural shocks that you've had? You mentioned a couple, but share some stories. Luca and Makoto, any cultural shocks you've had?
Koji, you want to go first?
You first.
Sure. No, I mentioned the first impact with Thailand years ago was really shocking, actually, because communication is entirely different if you just if you in your personal life, communication can be rather easy if you deal with people, friends, family. But if you work, then in a work environment, the communication patterns are very, very different in Thailand. This is what I noticed. So again, for example, many years ago, I had we hired a very good auditor from a big four firm to work in Thailand. She was an auditor that had studied, of course, she was graduated in Thailand. She studied somewhere in the West, either UK or US. So she was actually a well-traveled and very proficient auditor. We were at I don't remember, a conference where she delivered a presentation about taxation, and I gave her some feedback that in my opinion was very positive. So I was actually very proud, and the presentation went well, but there were a couple of things that I think I thought could have been improved upon. So I gave my feedback, and my mistake is that I gave that feedback, which again, in my opinion, was very positive, in front of other people. And that was perceived as being basically something I was belittling her in front of other people, which was definitely not my intention. So in that case, again, it was probably around about the beginning of my career here, I think 12 to 13 years ago. Long story short, I lost a very proficient auditor because of that incident. Then, she found a job elsewhere. Then we talked after the incident, and then, the situation was resolved. But then again, we kept going our separate path. But this is just a case of what many foreigners experience here. So I was fortunate enough because I have a Thai family. My wife is Thai. I have learned rather quickly how to give feedback in a way that is not perceived as too direct, trying to communicate with in a way that is acceptable according to Thai culture. Consider Thailand is probably the only country in Southeast Asia that has never been colonized. We have an office in Singapore where I used to fly every month before COVID. Singapore was under the British, under Japan. So it's a country that has been influenced by many cultures. Thailand has never been colonized. And so the culture is very, very traditional. So I learned that, again, at my expenses at the time, by losing someone who was very, very good. But I've learned quickly.
Thank you for the vulnerability of sharing, Luke. As a manager, that's hard, and we learn by making mistakes and overcoming them. Makoto, what's a cultural shock you'd like to share with us?
It's a bit different from culture shock. With the kind of culture shock is when I worked for the sales of SIM card with Declan, I met a lot of Filipinos who need some help about activation of the SIM card or anything. So we became friends and provide him or her about my Facebook contact. So I imagine he is going to contact me just for about some issues about a mobile phone or something happened in the SIM card, but he's contacting us about everything. So about the life, about his personal life. So I didn't imagine these kind of things because in Japan, we don't open ourselves for the foreigners. But I am just a salesperson of a SIM card. But he would like to be a kind of friends with us. So it's a kind of not a culture shock, but I feel the difference between the nationalities.
How did you handle that, Makoto?
Is it not only Filipino but also other nationality like Asian country or African country. So they need not only the help but also some friends in Japan. So I'm very happy to be a kind of that person, but sometimes I'm very busy and I cannot help much. So I sometimes apologize to them, but I learn a lot of things from customers because I learn my English by supporting customer by phone. So
Joa, I see 3 questions on the chat. Can I address them?
So, yes, please. Let's go all in with these questions. So Francesco.
welcome back, Declan.
Thank you, Declan. So here's one question from Francesco. What do you look in applicants? So do you appreciate applicants who have studied in different countries during the academic journey, or do you prefer applicants who studied mainly in the country where your company operates?
Okay, I address this first question. So for me, it's really not that relevant where you study. So it's more a matter of what do you bring to the table. So of course that we look at candidates with a good marks that have that study something that is relevant to the job that we expect them to do. But of course again the soft skills and I think the first impact that we have at the internship interview or job interview is the most important. So when we assess their their personality, the way that they handle the interview questions. So I would say yes. I mean, sometimes we do have we select candidates also depending on their language proficiency. For example, of course, if you need to hire people that are Mandarin speakers or they need to speak a specific language, that would be important. But other than that, of course, your academic background and what you studied is important, but even more important is what you actually bring to the table, so your proficiency. Can I quickly answer the other 2 questions and then just very super quickly? So question, what platform is used in Thailand? Yeah, LinkedIn would be used. So sometimes we advertise job openings on LinkedIn. There are other professional job application websites. There's a job there's a website called JobsDB in Thailand. So there are many ways in which applicants reach out to us. And then a question from Halma, what are the likelihood of getting offered a permanent position? Slim, but not none. We do offer sometimes a job to some of the interns that they stay with us for. Normally, we have 2 to 4 months internships. In some instances, we did hire the intern after the internship.
Thank you, Luca. Declan, would you like to take all 3 in the round since we have 6 minutes left? Please put more questions if you like.
Are you okay to see the chat and find some questions?
Makoto, I don't think Declan.
Yeah, I can cover something. Yeah, for one question about.
Can you share the questions with me? Because
oh, go ahead.
I can't read the questions, unfortunately.
Okay, so one was I would like to answer one of the questions about the network platform or media people use in Japan. They use Line. Do you know Line? The green one. Green. It's a chat like a WhatsApp, and I'm not sure about how to do the job hunting, but we use the private company who get into between the company and the student. So there's no.
Can I jump in, Makoto? Can I jump in and mention?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I jump in, Makoto, and mention that despite Facebook not being so popular anymore in perhaps Europe or the United States, it's highly popular as a job hunting method in Japan. So Facebook is still popular in Japan, and it's also very good for social meetings such as Meetup and social networking. So Facebook is still very, very big in Japan. In fact, one of the biggest forums where we have hired people from is the Tokyo Expat Network Forum on Facebook. So we've even hired. And there was a follow-up question from somebody who asked, do we hire interns after the initial internship? And okay, and the simple answer to that is we would of course consider it, but because of the visa requirements, every intern would have to return home and go through a very rigorous, I suppose, application for a work visa. So it wouldn't be an immediate employment opportunity.
Thank you, Declan. Also, what do you look for in interns? What do you appreciate for applicants? It was another question. Would you like to add to that?
Absolutely. We actually do not look at their skill set as much as we look at the person. If the person is going to add something to the office environment, that's a plus immediately. Of course, we're all getting older by the day. And one of the reasons we take interns is because we want a youthful balance in the office. And it could be something as simple as they have a personal TikTok account that they have a lot of followers for, or they have an interest in doing. And we don't do that because, you know, we skip that generation or whatever. You know, maybe open a new door our business as a new opportunity.
We got only half of the answer, but that's the modern world. And I know we are about to wrap up. So thank you, Manami, for sharing. That is the link we mentioned for you to get the certificate, but also let us know what sort of topics would you like to receive as well in the future. To wrap up, Luca and Makoto, what advice will you give to someone considering relocating for their career, particularly thinking about preparation, mindset?
I would say do your homework. So sometimes we have interviews with interns that are not even prepared for the job interview or for the internship interview. So do your homework first. Know where you're going. Learn something about the firm that you're going to work in, even as an intern. Learn as much as you can. Nowadays, it's easy to gather information. You have access to online sources. You can find information about the company and about the country. And of course, be prepared about, you know, the cultural aspect. I cannot stress that enough. So that would be my main advice.
Thank you. And for you, Makoto, what advice would you give?
Okay, so as a one was a Japanese person, I'd like you all to use your talent. So in Japan, we don't have a lot of people from overseas in educational situations or in a company. So maybe you can be a unique person if you come to Japan. So please be confident. Just be confident and talk about yourself and make an icebreaker and start something.
Thank you both. This is really great. I think that I echo what you just said, Makoto. The first thing is start believing that you can achieve that. You can see from this room a very international Luca, born in Italy, but very well traveled, and Makoto, who you describe yourself as your world was very small. I will say my world was very small as well as a Colombian. And then I came to London and I was like, wow, what is all of this? Like, this is a different world. And so believing in yourself first, understanding that there is something unique about each one of us that we can offer organizations, countries, etc., and that we are actually doing and building relationships between people, no matter if you are in certain career fields or what your role really is, as we mentioned, that purpose of why you are doing what you are doing. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, that is the form. Thank you, Makoto and Luca, for being here, and also Declan, who had to drop off, but thank you both for sharing. Thank you for the experiences you give to the interns, and yeah, really investing into the talent of the future. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and I hope to see you in another meeting.
Bye. Thank you
so much. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.